When we're debugging, it can sometimes be useful to have customized output available to us in the debugger windows. The debugger display attribute can help us with this. Let's take a look at a simple example that doesn't use the attribute. If I debug this test and hover over the P for person without debugger display object, we can see that at the root level we just get the name of the type. When we expand this down, we get the individual properties and their values. In this case, age in years of 50 and name of Sarah. Let me just stop debugging. The first way that we can start to take some control of the debugger output is to override the toString method. By default, Visual Studio will use this overridden toString in the debugger. If I uncomment this and then return to our example and debug it, we can see when I hover over the person now, we get our "this is overridden toString" value. This doesn't affect the individual members inside the object. Let me just stop debugging. The other option we have is to use the debugger display attribute. We can see the attribute here applied at the class level. When you use the attribute, you supply a string. Inside this string, you can reference the members inside the class. To do this, you enclose the name of the member in curly braces. For example, this refers to the name property here, and age in years refers to the age in years property. Let's take a look at this in the debugger. If I debug this version now, and hover over the person, we can see that the root level now uses the attribute at the class level. This person is called Sarah and is 50 years old. We also applied the attribute to the age property. If we now drill down, we can see the custom output for age in years, 50 years old. We can use the debugger display attribute with classes, structs, delegates, enums, fields, and properties. We can also use it at the assembly level with a slightly different syntax. So, when would you use the debugger display attribute? You certainly wouldn't use it all the time, as it does introduce a maintenance overhead. Certainly at the class level, it can be really useful if you haven't overridden the toString method, as the default display at the class level just shows the type, which isn't particularly useful a lot of the time. If your properties are well named, then the use of the debugger display attribute at this level may not provide much value. But if you have some kind of complex data, you may find it useful to implement. Regardless, whenever you use the debugger display attribute, you should make sure that it actually does increase the clarity at debug time rather than detract from it.